It's Monday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Murayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies. Hello.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm fine.
I got
Thank
my
you.
pearls.
Yes, I see you got your
pearls. So, BS Crafts, thank you. That's her Instagram handle, BS Crafts. She sent me this, crafts with a K, because a lot of BS Crafts. So, she sent me this pearl. I've been asking for pearls because I saw that Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and Michelle Obama, they seem to always wear pearls. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should just start wearing pearls. Maybe I can become very powerful one day. So, but thank you very much, PS.
She also sent me
a
very beautiful set. I wear it. It's a pink-colored one, so I'll wear it when I'm wearing something that will complement it. Thank you so much. We're also birthday mates. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Cool. It was a birthday gift. How are you doing, Nima? How are you?
I'm grateful to God for life. I'm grateful for a lot of things, for family, for friends, for you guys. Thank you for, the support. You know something funny? Whenever I visit my dad's burial, the burial ground, there's this calmness that's like you're seeing him, like everything is fine. But when we drive back to Lagos, the cold, the shivers start again. Oh. So I'm just, I'm grateful to God that, there's that peace around the place. It was worth visiting.
It's a beautiful feeling. You see, I mean, I have lost my father. And I was at his bedside when he died, and he was sick. I took care of him. I bathed him. I cleaned him. I fed him. God gave me the opportunity to care for him up until the last moment. So I cherish that moment now. So I'm happy that even you had the opportunity to be with your father, even up until he had passed on. So it's a great feeling when you know that you did your best, you did your part, and after over the years, yes, the pain might gradually ease, but you cherish those last moments you spent with him.
I pray I do. I've really, really grown, I'm telling you, overnight. But it was my mentee's birthday yesterday, and her engagement happened in my house.
You have 100 million.
Miriam.
Oh, really?
Miriam.
Engaged?
So, yes, Miriam is engaged now to be married. It was really nice.
Congratulations.
I almost ruined it. My husband was like, Madam, please.
From like the beginning.
Yes.
Now she's going to her husband's house.
Very soon you'll be a grandma because you're mentee now.
Yes, a lot of them are already married, and it's her turn. And I'm praying for the rest too. So, to move on from their careers to the next phase and all that.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
So today, secondary school pupils are starting the examinations. Let's have them in prayers. That God will give them retentive memories. I know lots of people, trust me, it's a prayer point. Okay. Please let them remember all because they only had about 2 weeks to prepare. You see, until you have a child in that space, because I was talking to somebody whose daughter is going to be taking exams, one of my neighbors, and I know she's really apprehensive, she's really worried. So it's a serious situation for lots of parents that have children in that grade. It's a big deal for them to just pass your exams and then we know the next phase. So trust me, it's a prayer point.
It's an unusual season, and the exams will of course be tougher because it's not the same environment.
Please have them in prayers that God will give them retentive memory to remember everything they've remembered.
We also hope that, the questionnaires take into cognizance those factors. Yes. Let me quickly say thank you everybody.
The whole of West Africa
for the birthday shout-outs. I saw everyone. I tried to respond. I gave someone the phone to respond to. Some I read, some myself. Thank you everybody from abroad, from Nigeria. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, let's start with The Nation. Governors, lawmakers, others share 774,000 jobs. Okay. CBN stress test clears banks. Worship centers observe protocols in Ogun Ekiti. This picture here is Winners Chapel, Ota. Rains to pound Lagos next month. Killer suspect escapes from police custody. Mimiko Akeredolu row about Ajayi. Okay, let's take the major headline. Who has that story?
So this much acclaimed 774,000 jobs, finally, as we know, this might have been shared according to past slots, according to the
local government and constituency.
Somebody was speaking for them, giving the breakdown of this law. The chairman of the Extended Special Public Works Selection Committee in Rivers State, Dr. Innocent Bariko, was saying that the directive given to them is that 40 slots in each local government goes to the governor, 30 slots go to 7 senators.
Yeah.
Members of House of Reps have 25 slots. Ministers have 30 slots. And per slots, they don't already distribute the jobs. But you know, the uproar and all the noise around it is not worth it, because this is a limited number of days job. It's just for 3 months. And it's, skilled workers.
So I don't know what the big fuss is.
We were forcing about 20,000 monthly. We were forcing with, people I thought it was permanent
yes,
employment.
Now, it made front page like almost a week.
We were making noise. Beneficiaries are just to work for 3 months.
So our worship centers opened on Sunday in Ogun State, Ekiti State. The picture is of Winners Chapel in Ota, and it shows that, yes, there are many people, but the church also provided tents outside so that they're able to follow the guidelines for spacing. The churches provided hand washing, sanitizers, and also information saying no mask, no entry. Right. So they did a lot of things to make sure that they followed the guidelines. But the overseer of the church,
okay, go ahead.
Yes, he was talking also about the Corporate Affairs Commission. They were taking, they're shutting down like trustees, bodies of different corporations, and he says that let them come and try it with churches. He says that there's no way that they can appoint a trustee over a church, because the church follows the pattern of God and not, man. All
right, I was going to pick a quick another story concerning the rains. The Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources did a press briefing over the weekend, and he has warned that the next few months, September, October, we're going to have lots of rains in Lagos State. We have to be very careful. Those of you living in certain regions, you might need to start thinking of relocating, because he has explained very clearly that Nigeria is a downstream of all basins. We have the Benin, Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, Guinea, and we are the receiving end. And once the dams are opened, it comes straight to us. And we need to ensure that we are at safe spaces before that period
We must also
comes.
try, because I know Lagos State, the canal in my area, like I always said, they've cleared, they prepared for the rain, they've done their part. Those of you who like to pour it in, please help us, don't do that. And then the people that will come and carry it, so please carry on time.
Moving on to Daily Sun. Insecurity, IGP orders CP to mop illegal weapons. That's the Commissioner of Police all across the country. Back in Igbo, to produce next president would right past wrong, says Fani Kayode. NAF deploys special force to southern Kaduna. IPOB peace deal with Ohaneze is intact. Let's take a few stories there. I have the Fani Kayode story. Actually, it was the youth group of Southeast Youth Group were appealing to the former governor of Lagos State, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to back the Igbo presidency, saying that they need his support and that their leaders like Charles Oludo, Peter Obi, Ken Namani, these are prominent Igbo leaders who are capable, according to these people, to be president, and that they need that support across the region of the country, and that during their own period, they actually supported other regions, and they need everybody to be, all hands to be on deck to support the Igbo presidency. Fani Kayode also lent his voice to the same thing, saying that it's to right all the wrongs. Ohaneze, saying that, okay, I thought you had that story.
Okay, so Ohaneze and IPOB have said that, the story that it looked like the peace deal that they had formed had broken irreparably, but they are saying that no, IPOB is saying that they actually had some meetings, and Ohaneze media representative, they were surprised to see that he leaked all the things that they had spoke about during the meeting. So they are still open to a relationship, but that it must follow the guidelines of this peace deal.
Okay, moving on now to Vanguard. Southern Kaduna, I'm not afraid of death, says Lekwot. Edo Ondo IGP orders mop-up of illegal arms. Equities fall as investors opt for mutual funds. Unilag, why we sacked Ogundikpe by Babalakin. 2023, Southeast not the only deprived zone. And presidency stakeholders disagree on Apapa gridlock. Okay, which stories are we taking there?
So Unilag is very interesting. The VC, former Vice Chancellor Ogundikpe was removed by, Professor Ogundikpe was removed by the, by Wali Babalaki. I'm trying to remember his office, imagine my memory. And the entire school is divided right now. The Senate Committee of the University of Lagos is divided over that removal. Owalakin says that he has valid grounds because, he has not followed the rules Ogundipe himself has written a letter in response saying that the appointment of the finance committee that should audit or approve his financial spendings were not properly put together, that you have a chemistry professor heading that committee, and so maybe that excuse. So a lot of works, I think people should sit down, read.
We'll focus on it in our lecture. It's going to be our focus, so we'll get some people to talk about that. But I was going to take another story. I was going to talk about Lekwat, as the former governor of the old Rivers State, retired general. He was saying, Major General Zamani Lekwat, saying that he's not afraid to die because, according, if you remember, in 1992, the Supreme Council of Sharia had sentenced him to death. He and 5 others. According to them, they caused some kind of Southern Kaduna riots that happened that killed quite a number of Muslims at the time. So people are saying that if that sentence is carried out, it will bring peace to Southern Kaduna. So the death of Lekwat and the 5 others, if they actually carry through, that it can actually ease up all the issues they're having in Southern Kaduna. Although people are saying that's not going to work, but he's saying he's not afraid to die. If it comes to that, he's not afraid to die. And Khan is saying his death is not going to do anything to fix that problem.
It's not going to help for anything.
Moving on now to The Punch. Mixed reactions persist. Concern eases as WASC begins today. Police nab 7 for cloning SIM cards to empty deceased accounts. Blasphemy, U.S. agency kicks as Kano court jails 13-year-old boy for 10 years. Police declare manhunt as detained Oyo serial killer escapes. Ondo Deputy Governor picks Mimiko's ex-aide as running mate. 17 appeal court seats to become vacant. Nigeria traders must pay $1 million fee, Ghana insists. And ShopRite battles $10 million judgment debt, barred from transferring assets. Which stories are we taking? Let's start with the human interest story.
Okay, so a 13-year-old boy has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for blasphemy. He was in an argument with someone else, said some things blasphemous, and according to the Sharia law, he's been tried. He was tried as an adult, and but the U.S. agency, there's a U.S. Commission on International religious freedom. It's saying that this is unconscionable. You know, he should not be tried as an adult. There should be freedom of religion. Also, the African Bar Association, the spokesperson, Hannibal Warford, also is saying that the federal government should step in as well, that this should not be allowed, that we have a federal justice system and shouldn't allow this sectional.
I'm shocked at the African Bar Association, because you see, Nigerians, we have this habit. When we should protest the passing of a law, we will not protest. When the courts are now enforcing, doing their rightful duties, we now want a judgment waived by protesting on the streets. So the Kano House of Assembly passed Sharia law as part of their criminal law system. It is a law in that state. It's not when the courts are giving sentences based on those laws that we protest. It is when they are passing those laws or when we need those laws amended. So the protest should be at the Kano House of Assembly again. This House of Assembly, I've felt over the years, has not been up to task. So now what Nigerians should be doing is facing that House of Assembly, not the court. The court has simply done follow the laws that they passed on ground. We have many laws that we should protest.
There's a lot of controversial issues concerning the Sharia courts, Sharia view. I mean, but again, as I said, it's
a criminal law system.
We cannot even begin to discuss it.
It's a criminal law system that even the penal code that already existed up north had many of their laws similar, picked from those traditions and beliefs of the people in the north. So the protest should be about amending and making sure that maybe you want to change their way of life and their beliefs, but not protesting court sentences.
You want to have another story there?
Yes.
The SIM cards?
Mixed reactions from parents. Okay, this we're praying for them. Okay, take
the Ghana story.
Ghana story. Okay. So yes, Nigeria. A video surfaced over the weekend of a Nigerian businessman in Ghana who had his shop locked, and the Ghana ministry has come to say that Nigerians cannot be protesting now about those fees. In fact, what we heard was that there's a $1 million regulation fee that Nigerians must pay. And according to the spokesperson, the head of communications for Ministry of Trade in Ghana, Prince Baoke Baoteng, who said that Nigerians must conform with all these laws. They gave them enough time to complete those regulations. Even though that Nigerian businessman was showing us his business registration and all that, there are other fees that they've not paid, and that they gave them enough time. And that there are also certain sectors that are exclusively for Ghanaian businessmen to market, not for every other businessman. I'd hate to, my words have caught up with me, because I used to say every country is sovereign. I would have loved to be on the Nigerian side, but Ghana is a sovereign nation.
And they made their laws.
They made their laws.
You have to follow it.
They've given their guidelines. It's just, if it's frustrating our businessmen, our government should start to look at how to make home comfortable for us to do our businesses in. Because, you know, we set the tempo for every business in West Africa.
I think that's pretty much it. Moving on very quickly to Daily Trust, our last paper. 808 Nigerians kidnapped in 7 months. Regional security outfits, others operating with illegal arms, says IGP. Nigeria records worst unemployment rate in 10 years. And FG World Bank planned $90 million grant for states. Okay. The major headline, who has that story?
So the record simply saying how many Nigerians have been kidnapped between January and July 2020. You know, giving the figures at 808, saying that despite all the existence of laws, you know, supposed to deter people from this with the strict laws and the consequence putting on death sentence in case someone dies in all the states, they continue to have high rates of kidnapping.
And this was actually just based on newspaper reports.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure there were much more than this, but this is just all based on newspaper
So one of the
reports.
most alarming parts is that, you know, Nigerian police is refusing to enforce or even do proper investigation or rescue in cases like this. We have the case of Evans, you know, which is, of course, a very clear one that, you know, we've not prosecuted successfully Evans to...
How many years?
Talking about Evans,
it's long.
There was supposed to be a judgment last week, I think. I can't remember. I read in the papers.
You know, there are so many cases. There are several applications on Evans. Evans himself is suing us for his fundamental rights abuse, so we don't know which one is which.
Unfortunately, that's all we can take. But I know that the IGP has asked the Commissioner of Police to wrap up all illegal arms, you know, around the country, which is an important task ahead. That's all we can take. When we come back, we discuss this issue of illegal migration to foreign countries. It's becoming quite rampant. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So the rate of illegal migration of Nigerians into foreign countries is becoming quite alarming. The fact that the federal government is expected to come to their rescue whenever they have issues in that country is becoming an issue of concern. Now, you can join us on 070-806-68014. You can also tweet us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourVTV so we can read your tweets. Let's hear your thoughts, because in the past couple of months now, we get videos from Lebanon, from different countries. It goes viral, and we say, what's the government doing? You know, your people are stuck. They're stranded. Abike Dabiri wakes up, calls her people, running around. The Minister of Foreign Affairs gets the plane, brings them home, then gives them stipends to start over. You know, and we see this thing happening over and over again. A new video just came out, I think, Dubai. They went to Dubai, obviously illegally. Some of them illegally, some of them, I'm told, have papers. But the point is that, why do we keep having this vicious cycle continually happening? We go illegally, we get stranded, and we now ask government to bring us home. Is there anything that is wrong that is happening, or is there something that the government can do to even stop it completely in the first place?
First of all, I think what government can do to stop it completely is just make our own country viable for businesses and, you know, to start your careers.
But you didn't go illegally.
Yeah, I know. I know, but we're getting there. So we have, you know, the first time when we saw the video from Lebanon recently of girls in a tiny room where they had been locked up, I asked you, I was like, Mariah, what's their economic situation like? Isn't that much better? Because you hear about the corruption in that country as well, and like they're also going through their economic recessions as well. It's almost similar to what we're struggling with. Why are people still moving out then? You know, I paid a lot of attention to the news, and they were saying things like, well, people would leave if they feel that where they are is not conducive enough for them, for their dreams, for their passions, for their, you know, to make a living. And so why people actually leave is to, you know, do better for themselves. So in that case, it will be, well, we know that there's corruption in our country. We know that there are so many unemployed people in our country. We know people who have been to school and cannot find jobs to do. Right. So those are the things that push people out. Yeah. But to now leave illegally and get there, I feel that there has to be a form of punishment or a fine for people who do that, because we cannot, it seems that for me who decided to stay back and I do not have a job, you go there illegally, you're going through problems, they bring you back on this plane, they pay they pay you, and also probably provide a job for you. And me, patriotic citizen, I'm looking, I'm wondering, how is it that you are getting all this and I am stuck here and I don't have any of that?
So it's become, as I said, once something trends, everybody just gets on it. So because now we bring them home, everybody seems to be now recording. It's almost as if it's a new thing. Once you're stuck somewhere, just do a recording, get everybody to pass it around. Hopefully the government officials will see it and then plan to bring you home. But my thoughts now are, how do we stop it? Nima, let me come to you on this.
So I personally believe that government should do everything in their power to stop this. And it includes enough, there can't be enough advocacy, public jingles and everything on how dangerous it might be for you if you travel illegally. So we know there's organ harvesting. We know the worst case scenarios, things that happen. There are NGOs in Nigeria. One of them have been on the show before on the Middle East, rescuing girls, talking about the dangers and the kind of things they go through. There's a video of, I think, a BBC documentary everywhere on how I think Senegal or Sudanese, how young girls are taken there, sold into slavery, the kind of torture they put them through, prostitution and all that. So we need that kind of effort they put in to stop the migration of girls from my state at the time up to Italy to do prostitution. That kind of effort to stop people from going, because there's no better, there's no green grass anywhere, especially up north. So if you're not a professional, and this I want to go abroad thing started with our professionals using our resources in those days to go to school in Nigeria, to go to the best of our universities at the time, and then relocating abroad as professionals. So they did well for themselves. Nigerians are still the most educated people, migrants in the world.
But they are different.
The skilled ones, they're still the most educated people across the world. Exactly. We do well for ourselves when we're educated. But everybody just thinks that because of the foreign currency value kind of thing, everybody wants to.
There's nothing wrong in legal migration, because
I've not said that.
Yes, Canada, like a few other countries are absorbing our skilled workers, although we're not happy about it. But the point is that there are legal ways of going to these countries. But especially when you go to the Middle Eastern countries, their laws are totally different. So, and I think part of the campaign you're talking about is that people need to be told. We need to be told the kind of laws these countries have.
Maybe we should do visuals. People should see what their people go through. So, as they are now, if Dubai wasn't a very secure country, if they were by mistake trekking that desert in Libya, you don't want to imagine what will happen to them. There was this time when, there was this, they were scouting for Nigerian footballers, when the Nigerian footballers were earning the best abroad. A group of young boys ended up in countries they could not defend, and they lost their kidneys. Some lost two, both kidneys. So those are the kind of images I would like that Nigerian government. So when you are traveling, travel with the right document. Travel in countries where you can shout that somebody just abused my human rights and you will have it enforced. And sadly, because you are black-skinned already, there's a problem in some countries. Some of these, first world countries that we like to talk about already, because you are dark-skinned, you go first raise your hand. So let's talk of Middle East countries where it takes a while for their law enforcement to respond. It takes a process for you to even get out, where you can arrive today legally, and somebody will seize your passport, hold on to it, and demand that you work for them to earn your passport to move freely. You get into their country with a work permit, and somebody can seize it.
So I have, talking about, we need to talk about what they really go through when they take this, when they illegally migrate. I had a driver who told me his experience. He said that as a young boy, he thought that the only way he could make it was to leave Nigeria. He had finished school, there was no job, and everywhere around him, everybody was suffering, and he couldn't take it anymore. But that he was able to raise a large sum of money to pay some agents to carry him through the desert. He said it was when they got to the desert that most of them had to find their way back because it was tough. He said, do you know that we had to be paying women for their pee in order for us to drink?
Jesus Christ.
He said it happened to him that because the desert is so dry, it was even tough for you to get that. So when people hear that stories, I mean, also, it's not... When you hope that when they hear those stories, it will dissuade them, and I guess it will dissuade some. But we see the videos of many of them who drown in the sea.
Right.
You know, and it still hasn't stopped some people. So for me, I think is that back home, we need to make it a lot more.
So all those people who we brought back home, maybe we need to start talking to them. To know, let them share their experience.
Speak up.
I know that my former nanny, her daughter actually was sold into sex slavery. And the girl will be calling, I mean, she was my nanny at the time, she'll be calling her mother that in a day, they make her sleep with 42 men.
What?
In one day, in the country she was in. The woman will be crying like this, that how can I do to? I said, Mike, what can I do that?
She was communicating
with her daughter. Say in one day, 42 men. Her daughter. Say in one day, 42 men that they'll force her to. And I'll try to call as many people as I could to find what we can do to help this person. But they kept moving her and moving her. We couldn't track the girl anymore.
No,
so
once they know she's no longer submissive, they kind of fling her around. So there's a syndicate that that was exposed in India. A Nigerian was sitting on this syndicate, and every black girl whose aspiration is to do well for herself is a victim of that syndicate. Imagine, and the guy, there was hidden cameras and it was really exposed. And I was wondering, it's only those of us who have data and those of us who are interested to watch this long video to the end that will see the consequence of this thing. So most times, yes, a lot of people, there are many videos, there are many pictures, but a lot of people don't see it. But if it was government efforts, imagine all our local stations showing, giving us, telling us, there was a guy I first, thank you, the madam at NIDCOM, that's the Nigerian Diaspora Commission. She assisted me to rescue someone in Libya back then. This young man had a bakery. He even had a bike for delivery. Yeah. So he would do fresh bread in the morning, but he just thought, there was a bigger business that was, frustrating his business, and he wasn't making as much profit. And, we are no longer patient to do things gradually. Yeah. So he sold his bakery, sold everything, ended up in Libya, and he was sold across slave camps, over 4 slave camps, before his friend was able to get a video across to me. Imagine the process it took me to get it to Madam Abike before she would do something about it. Eventually, we were able to locate it, because then it's wrong for him to even try to make a video call, a WhatsApp call. So imagine all those
Let me go on a break.
And we need people to talk more about it.
We're going to take some phone calls and some tweets. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So we're still talking about this illegal migration, and we're saying that it's important that we get these stories, because sometimes people are usually en route to Europe when they go through these countries, Lebanon. So there's this promise of greener pasture. So you're not going to all these Middle Eastern states. We're just going to use them to get to maybe Europe and all that. And that's part of what they used to entice families, because the nanny I was telling you that was working with me before, it was almost like it was as if they planned. It was intentional. It was voluntary movement. They wanted her to go into that intentionally and then make some money for a few years and come home, because the lady's husband used to come to my house to see the woman. So it was planned and agreed. But after a while, obviously, the girl got frustrated. She was tired. She wanted to come home. She was done. And the mother kept telling her, don't worry, just walk your way to pay how much we went to go and loan to get you there. Once you pay that money, come back. But obviously, there was no way the madam was going to allow her.
Madam there also that you'll be paying.
She'll be paying in dollars what she paid.
Let me take this call from Germany. Good morning. Are you there?
Good morning. I'm here, yeah.
Go ahead, please. You're live.
Good morning, ladies. I've been watching the discussion you guys have been carrying out for the past 5 minutes on illegal immigration,
Right.
People traveling and getting stuck somewhere and then calling on the government to come and rescue them.
Right.
So my contribution is this. I think every sensible country does the first things first. There's this saying that you don't put the cart before the horse. It won't work. Let our government, first of all, do everything they're supposed to do, and then make the whole place comfortable for people to thrive. And then whoever...
So he is correct. I've seen some tweets saying you people should be talking about good governance. People should talk about if the country was okay, fewer people would travel. There's another tweet on United Kingdom, okay, this one, United Kingdom is going to drain the swamp shortly. A lot of medical personnel in Nigeria are desperate to flee, and the various inanities of they
we talk about government almost every single day. If anybody critiques the government, it's TVC. I mean, from journalists hang out to your view, I don't think there's any other platform that critiques the government as we do on this station. However, we must also take responsibility on our own part. It's a two-way street. Exactly. So yes, government has their own to do, but we the people must also take responsibility.
I was building a premise when I said, Nigerian professionals started this trend when they started migrating those days, back in the days. So then it wasn't this bad. It's never been, it was never as bad as it is now before. But Nigerians kept going out. Nigerians had somewhere with the colonial mentality, had to go abroad. Somewhere like, I can't live here. Somewhere wanted something. We always wanted something better than whatever we have. We never thought of making better what we had.
But we had leaders that traveled, came back, and helped to
plus the leaders, plus the, I'm not excluding anybody now. Right. I'm saying that because we never grew our own. Look at UAE. What was UAE back in the days? They had a clear policy on what they could be proud and build dignity in their citizens.
Let me take Lanika and come to you, Mariam. Lanika, are you there from Abuja?
Yes, I am.
Thanks for your live. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, ladies.
Morning.
How are you all doing?
Very well. Go ahead, please.
Okay. All right. So on this migration thing, you see, I think we burden the government too much. I'm not saying the government shouldn't be doing so much, but if you look in other climates, their citizens are contributing to, and with migration, everybody will want to migrate. People want to migrate for different reasons. Even if you look at America, God's own country, their citizens still live. If you go there, there's poverty. Go to New York, you see people sleeping on the street. So there will always be poverty in the land. But I think with this migration issue, the problem, what I find so sorry about it is some people actually get into it unaware. So I think we need to come up with like documentaries, You've touched on it. It's very important. And that's where I think journalism in Nigeria, I've made comments on TVC handles before, that our journalists need to start doing documentaries. If you look at Stacey Dooley in BBC, she has some documentaries like that.
You're very correct. We need more documentaries. Yeah. Yes, Mariam.
There's some tweets here, and this person says, Amos says, why there is increase in illegal migration in Nigeria is because government economic policies are harsh on both private sectors and survival of most people. So we have had that conversation where a lot of people would say, today the government gives a certain economic policy, and because of that, some businesses decide to spring up, and then a change in government or a change of mind, and everything goes apart. Someone who has raised money, put money together to do that business, and you'd hear people who have been in that position taking this risk of migrating. So I think government, I know we don't want to put everything on government, but I think that government plays the most important part in this whole thing. If government understands that the flip-flopping of policies affects also how their people decide to make their make their living, maybe they will be more considerate or more considerate of how they change their policies willy-nilly.
So let me take this final call from Hakeem. We're going to wrap up very soon. Hakeem, are you there from the UK?
Hi, Molayo. My name is Hakeem. How are you today?
Very good. You're live. Go ahead, please.
Right. This issue of illegal migration, we have to break it down. You've got those that were trafficked outside to another country.
That's one.
And you've got those that, that have traveled legally, who's got visa, who's got holiday, who's gone on tourists and all the stuff. Now, the issue today is the evacuated ones that are brought back in. So we need to highlight all these. So the evacuated ones, the illegal migrants that are brought back to the country, those are the people we need to look into. Now, because of the lockdown.
Hello?
Go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, because of the lockdown and the restrictions, some of these people that are brought back, that are evacuated back, Some of them have got their money to come back. Okay. But because the international space is still locked in Nigeria for now, it's not making many of them to come on here.
Okay, we'll try. We have to wrap up on this, but I think
so
what are our final words?
The doctor wanted to jump on the distinction that he made of trafficked persons against, those migrants, voluntary migrants who migrate economically for economic reasons. The truth is, yes, the trafficked ones are clear victims, but we have cases of those who migrated for economic reasons also being abused across the country, which is why we were saying, let's have videos of, what might happen in countries, and let people be aware of the laws, whether they have human rights laws, whether they have their police would respond, whether their government have the clear willpower to fight against abuses of foreigners.
Or even if Nigeria has a strong presence there.
Yes,
so let
our people know. And these agents who also trade in these businesses of getting people across, especially to the Middle East. There are lots of them. Those people returning should expose them and let's have them prosecuted.
Prosecute them.
Because they get money. Yeah. They get money for what they do. And the other person, selling your brother into that kind of situation for money is something terrible.
Who has trafficked others, please, those kind of people should be brought to book, exposed and then persecuted. That's all we can take. I hope you've learned a few lessons from this. Let's go on a break. When we come back, the hottest topic in the land, Unilag and their Vice Chancellor. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So the whole of Nigeria was talking about this issue. Last week, the Governing Council of the University of Lagos announced the sacking of its Vice Chancellor, Professor Oluwatoyin Ogundikpe. According to the reports, the decision was based on the Council's investigation of serious acts of wrongdoing, gross misconduct, financial recklessness, and abuse of office against Professor Ogundikpe. Now, joining us on the show right now is Director of Academic Planning Unit, University of Lagos, also the former member of the Governing Council of the institution, Professor Obinna. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning, Mariah.
Yes, Professor Obinna. Yes. Thank you for joining us today. So, at some point, hopefully, we'll bring in somebody else to join the conversation. But first, sir, we've heard the allegations the Governing Council had against Professor Ogundikpe, issues of financial misappropriation, financial recklessness, not following due process. But your group from ASU is saying that due process was not followed. Could you explain to us what you mean by that?
Thank you very much, Mariah. Let me start by saying that I have been at the University of Lagos close to about 3 decades now, and I've held several administrative positions, including being the Dean of Postgraduate School about 5 years ago. Currently, I'm the Director of Academic Planning, and I was on the Governing Council, this present council, up to June 24th, 2020. So I have a fairly good knowledge of what has been happening in council. What I intend to do here is to provide some answers to what I can call some innocent questions that Nigerians have been asking on this saga. First, let me start with a report. This report, the Dagari report in question, was actually a report of a committee that was set up in council on the 5th of September 2018. And that committee was set up following the presentation of a budget performance report. And the terms of reference of that committee was to review the expenditure of the University of Lagos from May 2007, which was the time, 2017, which was when this council came into being. So that, as you can see, followed the membership of the committee, headed by Dr. Saminu Dagari, a council member who is a senior lecturer in chemistry at the Federal University, Gashua, Dr. Reverend Yomi Kasali, Oladejo Aziz as the registrar, a deputy bossa, Adepoju Adefookwe, and then he had a PAR as the secretary. Now, this committee went about its the business of reviewing the expenditure in line with what the council directed. Now, when the report of this committee was ready, the report of the Dagari committee was not presented to council, but by a letter from the registrar on the 26th of April, 2019 rather, several queries were issued to members of the university community. In addition, the contents of this Dagari committee report were already in the public domain and circulating across the social media.
Right.
Now, coming specifically, what were the major findings of this committee and their recommendations? One of the major recommendations of this committee, or their major finding then, was that a sum of 2,797,973,276 naira kobo, 66 kobo only, has been misappropriated by the management of the University of Lagos.
Right.
The second one was on the fact that they now also recommended, in their recommendation, that the University of Lagos Council should take total control of all the university finances.
Okay.
And then recommended that the chairman of council, the pro-chancellor, should be the chairman of Tenders Board.
All right, so because of time, I need you to move up close to where we are right now.
Yes, I'm giving you a background, but I'm going to come right there.
Right.
Now, the basis of this report was that when this report eventually came to council, members of council during that period complained that this report had not been taken by council in plenary, yet actions were already being taken on it.
Right.
It is this same Dagari report that is now being used to try and remove the vice chancellor. Now, the question is this: has due process been taken in the removal of the vice chancellor? The obvious answer is no.
Okay, let me pause you for a second.
This answer of no, let me come in there. The answer no has been re-echoed by those who know, the stakeholders. Committee of Vice Chancellors have said due process was not followed. The Senate of the University of Lagos has said due process was not followed. The Alumni Association, headed by Dr. John Momo, who is also a member of the Governing Council, has also said that due process was not followed.
Point taken. Let me get a few more questions.
So what would be due process? What would they do that would show that he has followed due process? Because we have reports that he may have also admitted to some of this wrongdoing. So what would have been due process?
Thank you very much. At no point in time until I left this council on the 24th of June that Professor Ogundipe admitted to any of those allegations. Let's get that point clear. Now, the due process, as outlined in the Universities Miscellaneous Provisions Amendment Act of 2003, stipulates, and I make bold to say that the Vice Chancellor may be removed from office by the Governing Council on grounds of gross misconduct at the initiative of Council, Senate, or the congregation after due process.
Okay.
He goes on to say that when the proposal for the removal of the Vice Chancellor is made, the Council shall constitute a joint committee of council and senate, consisting 3 members of the council, one of whom shall be the chairman of the committee and the members of senate.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, sir. So what would be the proper process for appropriation of funds? Because one of the allegations, some of the allegations are that, you know, he had his residence renovated for 49 million. He had the residence of the Bossard renovated without approval of this spending. So what's the proper process to appropriate funds for development within the school? How do you have this process? What body audits the spending so that we know whether the allegations first are valid or not?
Thank you very much. Let me also add, before I get to your question, that following the prescriptions of the University Miscellaneous Act, there should have been a joint committee set up. The allegations against the Vice-Chancellor would have been framed and given to him. May I also request that, in line with what is already on in the social media, can the Governing Council possibly avail Nigerians the membership of that joint committee, the allegations that was framed for Professor Gundikwe, and at what meeting did they meet, the proceedings of that meeting, and then what was their recommendation to council in whole. Thank you. Now, coming back to your question, the university is a very highly organized system with a lot of internal controls. Okay. The Vice-Chancellor cannot on his own appropriate money to begin to renovate his residence. Appropriations are made through the university budget. The Works Department in the university is responsible for implementing the provisions made in that budget with respect to renovations. And all these were provided for in the budget. I also need to say that the renovations of 49 million, which is being put in the public domain, there was no contract for 49 million given to anybody living or alive to renovate the Vice-Chancellor's Lodge. In line with the Lodge, in line with the workings of the university, these repairs and renovations are done in lots. And this covered the main Vice-Chancellor's Lodge, the guest house, and the boys' quarters attached to it. And this will also cover not only the physical materials, but furniture and furnishings that you have in that place.
Okay. Okay, let me.
Nobody is here saying that if there was an allegation of fraud, that it should be covered up. No.
Okay. All right.
No member of the University of Lagos community will cover that.
All right.
We are saying that due process, which has been enshrined by the Universities Miscellaneous Act, should be followed.
Okay, we have to go on a break.
This applies to all federal universities in Nigeria.
Well, let's go on a break, sir.
Maintain the integrity.
Yes, we'll come back to this because when Nigerians hear due process, for us, it's still very technical. Did you steal or did you not steal? That's the question Nigerians want to know. But let's go on a break. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So we still have Professor Obinna-Chukwu on the phone. Professor, as I said before the break, we're Nigerians, we've seen how our leaders have hidden behind this word called due process in trying to actually investigate issues of fraud. So my question to you, therefore, is yes, we understand due process wasn't followed. But the other questions, the allegations that certain people were hired without proper representation, there were misappropriation of funds. These are the real issues the Nigerian citizens want to know. Was Professor Gundikwe, is he liable in these allegations in any way? Is there an iota of a possibility that that these allegations levied against him are true?
Thank you, Mariah. You recall that earlier I had said that when this committee submitted their report, the major allegation was that 2.4 billion was misappropriated by the university management. The only opportunity that council had to discuss this report on the 13th of May, 2019. That allegation, you can quote me, was debunked on the floor of council. And what was it? This committee hurriedly put together money that was set aside under needs assessment and TED fund funds, sitting in the TSA account of the university, computed them together and came up to say that 2.4 billion was missing. On the floor of council, where that was discussed, it was debunked. And council resolved that that particular issue should now be expunged from the report of this committee.
Professor, please.
The second side of it, let me also come in there too, is that the same committee that investigated this, there was no other committee that was set up in line with the provisions of the law, investigated, found him guilty, participated in the removal of the vice chancellor.
Right.
Where lies justice in that process?
All right, let me pause you for a second, sir.
However, I also want to make bold, just like the issues of misappropriation of 2.4 billion was debunked.
Okay.
If the vice chancellor had been availed of fair hearing, there would have also been an opportunity to provide information.
Let me pause you on the fair hearing issue.
And allegations.
All right, let me pause you for a second because I have a call. We have another member of, actually a present member of the Governing Council of the University of Lagos, Dr. Bayo Adaralegbe. Good morning, Professor. Are you there?
Good morning, madam. Actually, I'm not a professor.
Dr. Bayo, I do apologize. Dr. Bayo Adaralegbe.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
To you. And good morning to Professor Chiku, my extra colleague on the council.
Yes. So I know that
good morning, Dr. Bayo.
there are issues of the fact that the Vice Chancellor did not get a fair hearing. I'll start from where Professor Chiku left off. Sir, could you tell us categorically if indeed the former Vice Chancellor was given the opportunity to defend himself?
Thank you so much for this question, Madam Moderator. But before I answer your question, I think it is only fair for me to provide some context and some background into what led to the removal of the former Vice Chancellor. Dr. Babalaki's council was inaugurated in 2017. When he was inaugurated, we had an initial council meeting, and the Pro-Chancellor declared that he was not interested in contracts or anything in the university. He wanted the university to move forward. Now, 6 months after we were inaugurated, there was a vacancy for the office of the Vice Chancellor. By law, 3 people were supposed to participate in this exercise from the council. Dr. Babalaki was nominated as chairman. I was nominated on behalf of the council and a 3rd person. Senate also sent 2 representatives. Now, of all the 5 of us that participated, Dr. Babalaki actually abstained from voting one way or the other for who would become Vice Chancellor. He brought in 2 people as observers, Professor Briggs and Professor Baniro, formerly of UI, just to show the integrity of the process. So actually, he did not participate, and he made it clear at that meeting that he wanted a Vice Chancellor to emerge, that it should be clear that he was able to work with one way or the other. Professor Ogundepe, former VC of the university, actually emerged by just 1 vote. So I need to make that clear. Now, what has led to this removal? In 2018, Dr. Babalaki came to the council, and Professor Chuku was there, and he said actually he had been Pro-Chancellor of the University of Maiduguri, and that he worked with a model that worked in Maiduguri. He was saving 20% of the internal generated revenue of the university for capital projects. University of Lagos had a land barren land in Abuja, and it was the desire to have it developed the way he got the land in University of Maiduguri developed in Abuja. And so we found out that between the Vice Chancellor and the butter were being played, and they were not being very, very forthright with the books of the university. And so an investigation panel was constituted. When the investigation panel came out with a finding, he found out that this Professor Ogudepe had actually been spending money behind the back of the Finance and General Purpose Committee of the university and the council. There was no council approval, there was no SGT approval. He had spent 112 million, claiming that he had spent this money renovating his house. He spent 49 million naira renovating the Vice Chancellor's lodge of the university. And he spent another 41 million renovating the house of the butter. Now, none of these spending came before council for approval. Now, in addition to it, he was actually giving a professor, Professor Ademola Adeneke, 2.4 million on a monthly basis. At the time the investigative report came back, he had actually spent 48 million put towards this. And his explanation was that it was a security vote and it was for making sure that the university was secure. Now, of course, council was not binding. And so he was given an opportunity. Now, to answer your question very specifically, he was given an opportunity to defend himself against the allegation. The registrar of the university, acting on behalf of the council, at the prompting of the Pro-Chancellor, actually sent a letter to him asking him to respond specifically to all the allegations against him. Professor Ogudepe responded to this allegation. He actually put up a 6-page defense of himself, where he actually tackled all these allegations specifically. He never denied that he spent this money. He never denied that, in fact, he did not obtain council approval. He never denied that, in fact, his spending did not go through Finance and General Purpose Committee. He never denied that, in fact, the spending did not receive standard board approval. So, based on that, we set in motion the process of a disciplinary process. And unfortunately for us, a letter came from the permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education.
Okay.
So,
let me pause you for a second, sir. Okay.
Dr. Bayo, so when these allegations have been found and the council has seen that this person is wanting, what is the next process? How is the process of...
what I was getting into before you interrupted me.
Okay, please.
So we set in motion the process of disciplining the Vice Chancellor. Unfortunately, we received a letter from the permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Education, actually stating that we should hold action for the time being because of breach of peace and things to that effect. So we couldn't actually take any decision. And so the decision was finally taken on the 12th of August 2020 at an emergency meeting that took place in Abuja. And I should tell you that on the Council of the University of Lagos, and this is very, very important for you to know, on the Council of the University of Lagos, federal government actually has 5 separate appointees, federal government representatives. They participated fully in this decision. And of course, the internal members of the university were also there. There were 5 internal members as well. And the alumni had a representative on the council. He participated, and the federal government also has a representative of the Federal Ministry of Education. Unfortunately, he arrived late at this meeting and he was unable to participate. The meeting took place at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the federal government's representative, and I must say this because there has been a lot of confusion, federal government's representative, and I must say this because there has been a lot of confusion as to whether it was disenfranchised. Actually, he came in, he walked in at about 12:30 for an 11 o'clock meeting. By that time, he had voted one way or the other. All the people that are now saying that there was no due process, they actually participated.
Okay, all right. Let me pause you for a quick second. Go ahead,
yes, Professor Chukwu, please, are you still there?
Yes.
Yes, so okay. Before Dr. Bayo came in, I wanted to ask if there was any agenda or reason you think that the governing council decided to lay these allegations against the ousted VC.
Thank you very much. Let me also thank my good friend, Dr. Bayo Adaralebe, who is a member of council, a staff, and a partner in Babalaki Chambers.
Hey.
I also want to put on record that this report, Morayo and Nigerians, the only aspect of it that was debated on the floor of council on the issue of misappropriating 2.4 billion was debunked. You can ask Dr. Bayo to confirm whether what I'm saying here is not right.
Professor Chukwu, does the school, does the University of Lagos...
Now, secondly, the fact that this media trial continued, he has rightly pointed out that the Federal Ministry of Education wrote a memo asking council to stop further debate on that matter. You will recall that sometime last year, on the floor of the House of Representatives, there was a motion for them to come into the issues happening in Unilag because of the damage it was doing to the collective will of everybody.
Okay.
So, Professor Chukwu, please, let's look into the substance of these allegations.
Looked at all the issues and gave a clean bill of health.
Okay, let's look into the...
communication came from the clerk of the House to the National Universities Commission.
Right. Okay, Professor,
let's look into the substance of these allegations. This is the first time in my life I'm hearing that a university has security votes. You know, I would think those things belong to governors, not a university vice chancellor. So what is your take on the security votes allegation paid to another professor within the council?
Monthly.
Thank you very much. Let me also say that security of the campus is very paramount. That we are here on campus enjoying peace and security means that some people are working somewhere. I make bold to say that there has been an instituted mechanism through which the University of Lagos is secured through an outsourced outfit. Monies are not paid to anybody, but through that outfit. The contention of council was that when the, the contract for that outsourced outfit expired, why did they not come back to council to renew that?
So is that not grievous enough?
Okay.
Anybody giving our money to another professor to be sending for security?
We run out of time.
The security of the campus is paramount.
We run out of time. But Dr. Bayo, just for a moment, they said that you work in the Babalaki Chambers. Is that correct?
I'm really, really surprised and very, very disappointed. And this is the problem, and this is the morass that the university system in Nigeria has really fallen into. Look, remember, J.F. Kennedy, when he was president in the U.S., his blood brother was Attorney General in America. As we speak, President Trump, his son-in-law, his senior advisor in White House. What is the issue? You see, these are people who have the mindset that federal government appointment is about lining pockets. And they just simply are wrong. And this is the kind of thing that we're trying to correct. Look, I'm in the University of Lagos. I'm a proud member of the council. And I believe that I've contributed to the development of the university. And look, you know what? All I collect as teaching allowance in the university is 60,000 at every meeting.
Okay.
I have not sat down with anybody to share contracts.
Fantastic.
So
on that note, we have to wrap up. Unfortunately, we run out of time. I have to go now, but thank you very much both for sharing your thoughts on this issue. And thank you very much, Professor Chukwu, for joining us this morning. Unfortunately, we have run out of time.
You didn't give me an opportunity to give a parting shot.
Unfortunately, I think you already gave your parting shot. We have to wrap up. Thank you very much, sir.
Seconds is that let the due process be followed.
Okay.
The council should avail Nigerians, the joint committee of Senate and council that tried Professor Gundikwe, the allegations that were framed against him, the proceedings of that meeting, and the recommendations that he should be removed.
On that note, thank you very much. We have to wrap up. That's all we can take on the show. As I said before, Nigerians are used to this phrase, due process. And let us go back to the allegations. What happened?
Yeah.
Was money taken? Did he spend the 112 million naira on these renovations of his house and all that? That's the real issue, not so much of the process. Stay with us. We'll see you next time.